Today I want to give the 3 reasons why I think Americans get divorced at a higher rate than Korean people. So first off, we're bad with money. Secondly, I think Americans are really maximizers. And thirdly, the social taboo around divorce in America is far less than it is in Korea. So first off the bat, I think Americans are not great with money. We're not that wise when it comes to money or money usage. And one of the top reasons for divorce is problems with money, arguments over money. So I found a statistic which says that 57% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their savings account. That's amazing. Less than $1,000 in their savings account. And this statistic's a little weird because maybe some people don't have a savings account. Maybe they have $10,000 in their checking account, but $20 in their savings account or whatever it is. So I can see how that statistic's a little skewed. But I found another one which said that something like 39% of Americans don't have $1,000 ready for an emergency. That's crazy. I mean, when you think about 39% of Americans, if they have some emergency over $1,000, they have to use a credit card, they have to sell something, they have to borrow from someone or somewhere just to cover $1,000. And I think this is a little counterintuitive to Korean people because the Korean mentality is that America is this super rich country and everyone has these nice jobs and things are looking great. But the reality is that there's and America as a whole is quite rich, but the reality is that there's a small group of very, 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 very rich people and a large group of people who are, I don't want to use the word poor, but we call them the working poor, where they're still working but they don't make that much money. So that makes it look like America's really rich when in fact there's a large group of people who are not super rich. And this is the 39% I'm talking about who can't raise $1,000 for an emergency. So part of it is that weird income distribution in America, but another part of it I think is just we don't manage our money that well. Like we use credit cards a lot for a lot of stuff. We're just not that good with money. An example I can give is my friend who bought a car that was worth about 125% of his annual income. Like this car cost like 25% more than he would make in a year. Now, that is kind of crazy, and I advise them not to do it. And I can't imagine a Korean person, like in America, it's very common to take out a 5-year car loan where you pay $200, $300, $400 a month for 5 years to buy a really fancy, nice car, even though you shouldn't and probably can't afford it. And it's really hard for me to think of a Korean person that would behave in that way, who would just spend like 125% of their income for 1 year on a car. Now, my friend is single, he's not married, so he can do whatever he wants, and it doesn't really affect anyone. But if he were married, imagine how his wife would feel. When you're married to someone, it is a legal, contractual, I don't want to say, but economic union. Whatever is hers is his, whatever his is hers. So when one spouse spends a bunch of money, you're affecting the other spouse. And if you did it without telling the other spouse, then that other spouse would be really pissed off. Let's say you didn't do that. Let's say you didn't just go out and spend a bunch of money that your spouse didn't want you to spend. Maybe you've been wanting to spend some money and your spouse won't let you. Either way, you guys are going to have a lot of arguments over money, and that could lead to a divorce. I think Korean people are really pragmatic about this. There's the common Korean path, which is study hard in high school so you can go to a good college so you can get a job so you can get married so you can have kids. And as depressing as that cycle may sound, it's not completely illogical. Okay, it makes sense. There's a reason you should have a good job before you get married, and there's a reason you should get married before you have kids, right? This is, if you're really poor and you want to get married, and you are realistic about what's going to be the outcome of it, do what you want, as long as both partners know what's going on. But I think often Americans are really good at deluding themselves about romance. You could see it in our movies, you could see it in our culture, or in our media everywhere, where it's like two people don't have great jobs or are even borderline poor, but they think, no, we love each other, let's just go get married. And then they go get married and it's super romantic, and then things sort themselves out in the end. They don't always sort themselves out in the end. Sometimes things go bad. Sometimes you have some guy who wants to spend 125% of his money on a car. Sometimes you have a husband or wife who doesn't want the other person to spend any money at all. And that's real life. And I think Korean people are a lot more realistic about that situation and just more realistic about money in general. So for that reason, I think Americans get divorced. I think Americans get divorced about money specifically more than Korean people because of our unrealisticness and bad usage of money. The second reason I think we get divorced more than Korean people is that Americans are maximizers. We want the best. We think everything should be the best. We're raised to where the teacher goes around and says everyone's special and you can be anything you want to be. And as encouraging as that sounds, and it gives us confidence, my Korean friends say like, oh, I wish I had that kind of teacher who gave me that confidence. It's bullshit. Not everyone is the best. You're not going to get the best outcome in every situation. And American culture is really centered around being the best and getting the best. Like in the recent Olympics, I think America was 4th in total medals and 4th in gold medals. To America, that's unacceptable. What happened? How do we lose to Norway? They're not even a country. There's this little tiny place. How could they beat us? This is how we're raised from childhood. And I think it plays into our relationships as well, where we think, I should be with the best man ever. I should be with the best woman ever. And if I'm not with them, then, I'm out of here. Even if they're married. And sometimes I think people, and it's really easy to get divorced in America because we have like quickie divorces. I think in certain states, it goes state by state. So in certain states, I think like Nevada, you can get divorced really easily. So you might just have this whim where you're thinking, oh, I met a better woman and I think she's the one. And the wife that I'm with for 10 years, well, she's not the one. And I need to maximize my situation. I should have the best wife I've ever had and blah, blah. And in some cases it's bad. And I think it leads us to divorcing someone because they're just not the best. Whereas I think Korean people are, again, more realistic and realize like, maybe I didn't marry the best man for me, but he's still good, and that's not a reason to get divorced and dramatically change our whole lifestyle. The third reason I think Americans get divorced is that the social taboo around divorce is much less than in Korea. It's almost non-existent. So the peak divorce rate in America was in, I think, 1980 or the early 80s. And the divorce rate got up to 40%, which I was kind of shocked about because I've always heard the divorce rate in America is 50%. So what I heard was an exaggeration. But I found out that was in the early 80s. And that's when I was born. So when I was being raised in the 90s, I had a bunch of friends whose parents were divorced. I had a bunch of friends, like when I meet a friend and I meet him for the first time, I'd say like, tell me some things, or I'd find some things out about him. I go, Timmy's mom has red hair, they have a nice car, his parents are divorced, he likes spaghetti. This was just a list of facts that had no bearing on me, and there was no value judgment about it. I wasn't thinking, oh, his parents are divorced, how sad. It was just, okay, that's how I was raised. In fact, there's a pretty good movie about it called Children of Divorce, where there's a psychologist who interviews a bunch of people my age, because we're kind of the first generation where being divorced or having divorced parents is just very normal. That's kind of an interesting movie, but it makes the point, which is, it's been a generation in America since anyone even kind of cared about divorce. And in Korea, I think that's happening right now. I was trying to find some statistics about Korea's divorce rate. And it looks like it's been skyrocketing pretty recently. Now the problem is I can't do searches in Korean, so I can't really find a lot of good data, but it looks like it's been skyrocketing recently because Korea is kind of going through what we were going through maybe in the early 80s, late 70s. Korea's going through that right now. So the taboo is still existing in Korea, whereas in America, it's all but gone. And I really want to end with this. I don't think divorce is necessarily good or bad. Divorce is just divorce. Sometimes you're getting out of a really shitty, toxic arrangement with a man or a woman that you really shouldn't be in. And if you come from a culture that has a big social taboo against divorce, you might not do it even though you should. Sometimes it's good to get divorced. Sometimes it's bad to get divorced, where if you come from a culture where you can get divorced really easily and nobody cares, you give up on a relationship there was a reason you got married in the first place. you might end up giving up on a relationship that is really, something you should stick out. I mean, relationships aren't easy and you have to try and work at them. And I feel like, sometimes in America, people don't necessarily do that when they should, so they get divorced really early. So, back to my main point. The 3 reasons I think Americans get divorced at a higher rate than Korean people are, first, we're bad with money, and money problems are a leading cause of divorce. Secondly, we're maximizers. We want the best situation ever. So we end up divorcing if we feel like we're not with the best person ever. And finally, the social taboo around getting divorced just doesn't exist in America, so it's really not a barrier to us getting divorced. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hate this video, give it a thumbs down. If you love me or hate me, hit the subscribe button. This video comes out of the comments of my previous video where I was talking about how I think Korean people should live together before they get married. And I got a lot of comments saying, why is the divorce so high in America if you guys all live together before marriage and you're supposedly happier about your marriage just because of this? Well, here's 3 other reasons I came up with for why we get divorced more. So a lot of people leave comments saying, I don't think you're reading any of these comments. I actually do read these comments. It's just, I feel nervous about writing things, especially in Korean, and I feel I'd rather make a video where I can really address them in a proper formal way, like this video. So because of that, please leave comments because I'm gonna read them and I might make a video in response to your comments. And I love reading the comments, so please leave some comments. Remember, these videos come out every Friday at 7 p.m. So if it's after 7 p.m. and it's a Friday, there's a new video out. And the most important thing of all, of course, have a super awesome day.
여러분의 지원 덕분에 이번 영상을 제작할 수 있었습니다.